What's going on, guys? Cultofmush back at it, and in this video I'm going to be giving you guys my first impressions of Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Now, I only have 10 hours into the game so far. This is by no means a full review. I still have a lot of gameplay that I have to go through, but I think I've put enough time into the game where I can give you guys my first impressions and what I think about the game so far. And I know some of you guys might be shocked that I only have 10 hours in the game. It's been out for a week. I've been a little busy over the last week, so I haven't been able to play it too much, but I've still had at least a little bit of time to devote to the game. So Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the review scores. It's been getting 10s across the board. I think it's got a Metacritic score of 96, which is absolutely ridiculously high. You know, I try to take the review scores with a grain of salt, but with all those review scores coming in just consistent 10 after 10, I was going into the game with pretty high expectations. So I'll start off talking about the visuals and the performance. The actual graphics themselves are fantastic. And what's crazy is this is a game that is on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. I have no idea how that game is even running on those consoles. I did hear it's running at 720p and sub 30 frames per second, so obviously it's not the most ideal experience, but still, the fact that they're running on pretty much 8-year-old hardware, that's pretty insane. Obviously, I'm playing the game on PC at 1440p and 60 frames per second, and the game looks absolutely fantastic. Just all the textures, all the facial expressions, all the buildings, they just all look really, really freaking good. My brother actually walked in on me playing the game, and he's not a big gamer himself. All he really plays is League of Legends. He was a big gamer back in the day, but he walked in and he was just blown away by the visuals. He was like, holy shit, has gaming graphics really gotten this good? And at that point, I was in the cutscene of the game, and then it transitioned out of the cutscene and straight into gameplay, and my brother was like, holy shit, that wasn't CG? And I was like, yeah, the gameplay is just like that too. So the game looks freaking fantastic. And the fact that the game runs at butter 60 frames per second is also really good. The PC port is on point. The visuals and the performance on point. The facial expressions, the blood, just everything about the game. There's a lot of detail in the game. And in an open world game to have that much detail, that's pretty impressive. And next we move on to the gameplay. And I think so far the gameplay has also been very good, although not perfect. Now, I think the game did a really good job incorporating the traditional stealth action gameplay of Metal Gear Solid in an open world environment, which I thought would be a pretty hard thing to do. But they've done a pretty good job with it. Now, I've been primarily playing the game stealthy. Obviously, I'm a fan of the older Metal Gear Solid games, and I prefer to play the Metal Gear games more stealthy. But I did decide to play one of the missions just bum rushing through it, going in guns blazing, and I really didn't have too much of a trouble with that mission. Honestly, you can play the game either way. Obviously, it's Metal Gear Solid, so you probably want to play it stealthy, but if you are the kind of guy that you just want to go in guns blazing, you can do that. In my opinion, it's played the best if you do play it stealthy, unlike the previous Metal Gear Solid games. But hell, there's an option where you can literally call in air support from your mother base, which is kind of the place where you gather all your troops and kind of the hub world of the game. You can call in air support from the mother base, and it'll just be like a helicopter shooting people down, and you can pretty much run and gun, go guns blazing, and play like if it's an action movie. I did that one mission, and honestly, I didn't have too much fun with it, but if you are the kind of guy that you're not used to the traditional Metal Gear games, and you just want to play the game run and gun, the option is there, which is nice. But I myself am going for a full S rank run through, which is pretty difficult to do, and you want to play the game full stealth if you want to do all S ranks. And the stealth gameplay is there to a T. I think it's just as good as the previous Metal Gear Solid games, and honestly a bit better. The one thing I do think that they missed on as far as the actual gameplay goes is the AI. The AI is very hit or miss. I'll give you guys an example. So I knocked a guy out and I went to put the parachute on them to pretty much take them back to my mother base so I could add them to my team. And when you take them up into the air, they pretty much start screaming, but none of the other guys noticed. They kind of just stood there acting like nothing was going on. That kind of unimmerses you from the game, and I was just like, what is going on? And at one point, one of the guards did hear me, and then I just hid under grass for literally 5 seconds, and then he acted like nothing happened and all was back to normal. So at points, the AI is a bit wonky. The majority of the times, it is fairly good, but there are times where I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? And as far as the mother-based gameplay goes, I think that's really cool too, adding new people to your team, making it bigger. I think that adds a whole new layer of gameplay, and I'm pretty sure something similar to that was in Peace Walker. I really never played too much of Peace Walker, so I don't know too much about it, but I do think the base building aspect of the game added a lot to the gameplay, and added something different to the game that I definitely enjoyed. So as far as gameplay goes, for the most part, it was very good. Just some of the AI issues kind of got in the way. I thought a lot of the mother-based stuff was really cool. And the actual stealth and action gameplay, that was done really well. But like I said, if you want the most out of this game, you definitely want to play it stealthy, but the option to go guns blazing is definitely there. Now, my biggest issue with this game, and it's the one reason why I'm really not enjoying the game as much as I thought I would, and how much the reviews kind of portrayed the game to be, and that's the lackluster story. Like, like I said, I'm only 10 hours into the game, so that's not too far into the game since it's probably going to take me somewhere like 30 to 40 hours to actually finish the game. But at this point, outside of the first game's cutscene, I've literally had one other cutscene in the whole game. And right now, the story just doesn't make a lot of sense. I really don't understand it. It's not really being fleshed out that well, and the main character, Big Boss, hardly talks. Everyone was up in arms that Kiefer Sutherland was getting the voice acting role, but Big Boss hardly talks. I think literally up until this point, 10 hours into the game, I think Big Boss has had a total of 5 or 6 lines. And Metal Gear Solid was a game that I could always get invested into the main character, and in this game, I'm just like, I don't feel anything for Big Boss. Yeah, he is coming off a coma, and maybe that has something to do with the story of the game, but right now, I just think the story is really poorly being told. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but there really aren't that many spoilers I could give. Not a lot of the story has been told so far in 10 hours of the game. And it's just a complete night and day difference from Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 4 had cutscenes that were north of an hour long, and it just felt like Metal Gear Solid 4, Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 1 were so story-driven, and Metal Gear Solid 5 is kind of totally different. Metal Gear Solid 5 takes the gameplay up to a new level, but the story just goes plummeting down. And again, I am 10 hours in, I have to reiterate this, but you know, 10 hours into Metal Gear Solid 3, I would have a good idea of the story. Hell, 10 hours into Metal Gear Solid 3, I would probably be done with the game. But it just seems like right now, the story is non-existent almost compared to previous Metal Gear games. But comparatively to a game like Call of Duty or Battlefield, obviously it has a better story than those games, and it has a lot of cassette tapes you can collect, and there's definitely a lot of lore in the game. But honestly, for a person like me that's been familiar with the previous Metal Gear Solid games, it's completely different as far as investing you into the story. So I think for a person that has never played a Metal Gear Solid game, I think they'll go into Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain and really enjoy it. But for a person that's been accustomed to the story and kind of those huge moments in Metal Gear Solid, I'm not really experiencing that in Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, and I think that's the one big issue with the game. Had Metal Gear not been a game that's been built up on its story for the last, what, 2 decades, I could probably give Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain story a pass, but it's just completely different from the previous games that I really can't give it a pass in the story department. And again, this might change. I'm only 10 hours in. Hopefully it gets much better, but just right now, I'm just not a fan of how the story is being told. So that's gonna wrap up this video. Like I said, this is a first impressions video. I'm hoping the game's story gets better as I move along, but the visuals and the performance are fantastic. The gameplay is great. Just the story's lacking a little bit. If you're the kind of person that's been accustomed to the older Metal Gear Solid games, maybe you don't want to pay $60 for this game. But if you're just coming in and you're just looking for a really fun and really content-filled open world game, I think this game would be right up your alley. So as always, guys, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like. If you disliked, obviously dislike this video, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Have a great day. Peace out.